They say Gen Z is the most connected generation in history, always online, always informed, always in touch. But what if constant connection doesn't create closeness? It creates something else entirely. What if being seen all the time slowly makes you feel invisible? You grew up in a world where everything moves faster than your thoughts can settle, where identity isn't something you discover, it's something you perform, refine, and question in real time, where silence feels unnatural and stillness almost uncomfortable, and beneath all of it, there's a quiet pressure to be aware, to be enough, to never fall behind. So, why does a generation surrounded by connection feel this deeply alone? Let's begin. You don't remember a time when the world was quiet. There was always something playing in the background, a screen glowing, a notification waiting, a stream of information moving faster than your thoughts could fully form. Silence wasn't something you experienced, it was something you avoided. Because when everything around you is constantly moving, stillness begins to feel unnatural, almost uncomfortable, like something is missing. So you filled the gaps: music while thinking, videos while eating, scrolling while resting, not because you needed distraction, but because your nervous system learned to exist inside stimulation. You became used to it, the constant input, the shifting attention, the subtle pull of something new, something louder, something more immediate, and slowly your internal world began to mirror that pace. Thoughts that don't settle, emotions that move quickly but rarely fully process, a kind of restlessness that doesn't always have a clear reason, because when your environment never pauses, your mind doesn't learn how to either. You're always slightly alert, slightly engaged, slightly anticipating the next thing, not overwhelmed in an obvious way, but never fully at ease either. And over time, this becomes your baseline, not chaos, but a quiet, constant noise that never truly stops. You didn't just grow up living your life, you grew up watching yourself live it. At some point, the line between experience and observation began to blur. Moments weren't just felt, they were noticed, framed, sometimes even imagined from the outside. How does this look? How does this come across? What does this say about me? These questions didn't arrive loudly. They settled quietly into the background, becoming part of how you moved through the world. Because when parts of your life exist in public spaces, even small parts, you begin to see yourself the way others might, not as you are, but as you appear. And over time, this changes something subtle but important. You become careful, careful with what you express, careful with how much you reveal, careful with the parts of yourself that don't fit into something understandable. It's not always fear. Sometimes it's just awareness, a constant, quiet awareness that you are being perceived, even when no one is actively looking. And so, your identity forms in that space between who you are and who you think you should be, not fully hidden, not fully free, just slightly adjusted. Because growing up watched doesn't always feel like pressure. Sometimes it just feels like normal, and that's what makes it harder to notice. You became aware of things earlier than you were meant to, not just of yourself, but of everything: the state of the world, the instability of systems, the quiet patterns in people. the unspoken tensions behind conversations. Information wasn't something you had to seek out, it found you, and it kept finding you. Scrolling wasn't just distraction, it was exposure to problems you couldn't solve, to perspectives you couldn't ignore, to realities that arrived faster than you could process them. And somewhere in that constant awareness, something shifted. You stopped feeling like a participant and started feeling like an observer of everything at once. There's a weight to that, because awareness doesn't come with resolution. It doesn't give you control. It just gives you more to hold, more context, more complexity, more things that don't fit into simple answers. So your mind keeps moving, trying to make sense of it, trying to organize it, trying to understand where you stand in all of it. But it never quite settles, because there's always more, another perspective, another contradiction, another piece of information that changes how you see things. And over time, awareness stops feeling like clarity and starts feeling like pressure, not loud, but constant, like carrying something you were never taught how to put down. You are always connected. Messages, notifications, conversations, something is always within reach. Someone is always there, just a tap away. And yet, something feels distant because connection isn't the same as closeness. You can talk to people all day and still feel like no one really knows you. You can share pieces of your life and still feel unseen in the parts that matter most. It's subtle. Nothing is missing in an obvious way, but something isn't fully there either, because digital connection often lives on the surface. Quick responses, short exchanges, moments that begin and end before they have time to deepen. There's no pause, no lingering silence where something real can emerge, just movement. And over time, you learn to exist within that rhythm. You stay in touch, you stay available, you stay present, but not fully open, because depth requires time. It requires stillness. It requires the kind of attention that doesn't divide itself between 10 different things. And when that kind of space becomes rare, closeness begins to feel unfamiliar, not impossible, just distant. So you remain connected, surrounded by people, conversations, interactions, and still, quietly, on your own. You're not always sure what you're racing toward, only that you can't seem to stop. There's a quiet sense that everyone else is moving faster, achieving more, becoming something clearer, more defined, more certain. And even when you try not to compare, the comparison finds you through timelines, through updates, through small glimpses into other people's lives that feel complete in ways yours doesn't. It's not loud insecurity, it's quieter than that. A constant underlying question: am I doing enough? Because when progress is always visible, it becomes difficult to rest without feeling like you're falling behind. Even your pauses feel temporary, like something you'll have to make up for later. So you keep moving, not always with direction, but with pressure, to improve, to figure things out, to become something stable in a world that keeps shifting. And underneath it, there's a kind of uncertainty that never fully settles, because there's no clear finish line, no moment where you can say, this is enough. So the effort continues, quietly, consistently, driven less by ambition and more by the feeling that stopping might cost you something you can't afford to lose. At some point, you begin to notice it. The way your thoughts change when no one is watching, the way your body feels when there's nothing to respond to, nothing to check, nothing to perform. It's unfamiliar at first, almost empty, because so much of your life has been shaped in relation to something outside of you, an audience, a response, a reflection. Even when you're alone, part of you is still aware, still observing, still adjusting. So when that awareness softens, it feels like losing something, but it isn't loss. It's space. Space where you don't have to explain yourself. Space where your identity isn't being shaped in real time. Space where nothing needs to be captured, shared, or understood, just experienced. And slowly, something begins to settle. Not all at once, but in small, quiet moments where you stop checking how things look and start noticing how they feel. The pressure doesn't disappear, the patterns don't vanish, but they loosen because you begin to see that not everything has to be witnessed to be real, that not every moment needs an audience to matter, and that maybe, beneath all the noise, there is still a version of you that exists quietly without needing to be seen. If this felt familiar, if you recognized yourself in the noise, the awareness, the quiet pressure of always being present, you're not imagining it. You adapted to a world that rarely gives you space to step away. You learned to stay aware, to stay connected, to keep up, even when it meant losing the feeling of being fully at ease within yourself. And none of this makes you weak. It means you've been carrying more than most people can see, not loudly, but constantly. And maybe now you're starting to notice it, not to change it all at once, not to escape it, but to understand it. And sometimes that understanding softens something inside you. If this felt familiar, you can stay here. And if you choose to come back, you're always welcome. Take care of yourself.